Changes have arrived for the Sons of the Lion. Will this change anything? Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another Glacial Geek video. I am Phil, the Glacial Geek, and today I'm going to talk to you about the new Balance Dataslate that's come out, including points changes and changes to the rules that they put out here for 10th edition here to hopefully try to balance things out. I know they're still in the process of coming out with the codexes, but there are certain codexes that needed help. There's certain codexes that maybe needed to be not helped as much. And as you know, they've been doing this rules changes kind of every. They've been doing it's like points changes every half a year, and then once a year every half year. They do a rules change, and then every quarter they do the points change. But this is one of the ones where it coincides, and there's both points changes and also balance changes. And today I want to specifically talk about the Sons of the Lion, the First Legion, the Dark Angels, because to me, I'm a big Dark Angel fan. They're my boys. They've been my boys for many years. They're my first real Warhammer army. I've still got the most of anything that I've painted is Dark Angels. They're my boys, and I love them a lot, and I love to play with them, and I love to have them on the table. But their new book was supremely disappointing. It became very difficult for me to try to find ways to kind of have fun with what was going on with them. Not just because I can have fun with a game, and that's not a problem with me. What I was having is I was getting frustrated because I wasn't able to crack how to make the lists do what I want them to. And they just weren't. And if the game wasn't doing what I wanted it to do, it meant that I was just going to be frustrated. And if I'm just going to be frustrated, then what's the point of going to a tournament? I'd rather go to a tournament with a different army that I, not necessarily going to win. I could still lose every single game, but I'm not frustrated by it. And I think the frustrations just lie in kind of how the book kind of came about. And what they did with the book is it felt like they felt like they didn't give the Dark Angels a chance to really kind of do their thing. There was the Iron Storm lists that were doing well with Azrael, but that's not the book list, and I kind of wanted to make those detachments work, and I was hoping they're going to make the detachments work, and I felt like a lot of things that they were changing just felt non-effective at making a fun time for either the player or the opponent when it came to those things. So they've made a lot of changes, and they're not a lot of changes. They made a few changes, and I want to kind of go over those changes and kind of talk about what kind of effect I think those are going to have on the Dark Angels, whether I think that they're going to be more effective on the table, and I don't think I'm going to be able to foresee if they're going to be winning any GTs with these changes, but I can kind of talk about generally how much of an effect I think these are going to have. So let's get into it and start talking about things. First thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about the changes to the detachments. There have been 2 changes to the detachments, and 2 of the detachments got changed. One was a change to Grim Resolve, which was our original detachment, and they've now added something to it now where you can, at the beginning of your command phase, you choose one Astartes unit, so one Space Marine unit, and you can give that unit +1 OC for the rest of the turn there. It's a small change. I don't think they wanted to tinker too much with that, with that detachment, because there weren't a lot of people that were feeling super great about it, but that's what they've done. So now you have where you're going to have +1 OC. You also have it where you're not going to be 0 OC because you still have the same rule that's coming from the Grim Resolve detachment there. I don't know, it seems okay. I mean, getting +1 OC is good for holding on to objectives, holding on to being able to contest objectives and being able to do actions on objectives that you control there. But at the end of the day, OC is great, but most of the time it's either my units on it or your units on it, and we're either killed each other by the end of the turn or not. It doesn't usually have a lot of contesting in my experience, especially with the Dark Angels. There's such a lot of killing and dying for the Dark Angels that it doesn't feel like you have a lot of I'm sticking on here while you're also sticking on here. And not being able to do anything there. So that change to the detachment is welcome, but I don't think that it's going to now make that a life game-changing, meta-changing detachment because of that change. The other change they made to the detachments is to the inner circle detachment. And as Inner Circle Task Force, you have now 2 options for how you do your vowed objective. So, you know, the vowed objective in that detachment, if you don't know, is you choose an objective and you make that objective either your, you make that your vowed objective, and you will get Deathwing units get +1 to wound against models on that objective when you're attacking them. So it used to be you just choose one, and anything on that you get that. Now you have an option. You either can choose one. You choose your different footing that you're going to have, is the way they worded it. So you have your defensive footing and you have your aggressive footing. So you can choose a defensive footing and say, like, you can choose one objective that you control, that you are currently controlling, and you can get the +1 to wound on that objective. Essentially, it's if you're just trying to hold the line against the enemy that's like hoarding towards you. Say you're playing against orcs and they're coming at you, and you just need to hold the line. You can choose this one that you're holding with your units. I'm going to hold on to this so I can get +1 to wound when that green tide finally like starts to wash over me. The other option is the aggressive option, and you can choose up to 2 objectives that you don't control and get the make them the vowed objectives. So suddenly now you have 2 vowed objectives, which is super helpful when you're like on the attack, when you're on the front foot and you're trying to push forward and get control on the tables. There is that you can choose 2 objectives and you can have 2 different forces kind of going against them and getting the +1 to win. I think this is a huge change, and I think this is a great change to hopefully make the Inner Circle work. Still got a lot of questions about how things are going to happen and things and such, like trying to figure out, like, do I still do fixed objectives? Do I go now maybe try to do tactical with the things that they have there? There's a lot of questions that come with it, but this certainly feels like it's a change to the detachment that makes it more doable and feels like it has wiggle room and has enough legs to make it work. So I'm pretty excited about that. They didn't change the Raven Wing one at all, but between the two, I think the change to the Inner Circle Task Force is certainly a bigger one, and I think it's going to be a better one. I now feel like there's maybe some room in that detachment to really make it work, and I'm pretty excited for that. Along with this, they've made some changes to the Deathwing Knights, because we obviously were not super happy about what was going on with the way the Deathwing Knights were at. They just felt like with the loss of numbers and the loss of Killy power that they were just kind of like they felt a little bit stagnant. So they've changed them a little bit now, where the maces now have anti-vehicle and anti-monster 4+. So that's huge, because now that means that you can go attack a vehicle. So suddenly now the Inner Circle Task Force has some units that can actually handle like the parking lots and handle vehicles out there. They also moved the mace up to AP -2, which is pretty great. And they made the power weapons 2 damage instead of just 1 damage. So suddenly now the options that you have for the knights are pretty good. If you want to bring them with the maces, suddenly now that you've got an option for attacking into vehicles and monsters, wounding on a 4+ is huge, especially since they were like strength 6. It became impossible to really attack into them. But now you're just wounding on a 4+, which is great for the anti-infantry that you've got going on there. They didn't really change the maces. The flail. Those are the 2 things that they changed in their data slate, which I think is super welcome, super happy. The only thing I'm not super happy about is that they are bumping up the points 20 points for that 5-man squad. So it's gone back up to 235 for a 5-man squad from 215, which is frustrating, because it felt like, I don't know, it just felt like they didn't need that, you know? And it's like, it feels like it's another one of those things where it's like they can't give without taking away from the Dark Angels. I feel like at 215, they would have been great with those changes. At 235, I feel like they're definitely worth exploring and figuring out what can do with them. But for at the 235, I'm definitely going to give them a shot. I think they're going to be a lot more usable at that point than they were even at 215 without those changes. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the points were needed to make up for that difference there. Anti-vehicle and anti-monster is huge. I mean, it does mean that you're probably going to be taking maces instead of the swords, which is the brand new thing that you can take with them with this new edition with the new models. But at the same time, having that option I think is great. So I'm definitely probably going to get them back out there and try them again, because I think that's kind of the way I want to go with it. And that feels like I've got now suddenly a Deathwing option for attacking into my enemies, even if they're heavy monster or heavy vehicle. They've also made a couple changes to points, which I think are going to affect the Dark Angels. We have the Storm Raven has been bumped from 260 points to 280 points, which really affects the Iron Storm detachment list that people are running with them with Azrael. I mean, that's, I mean, Storm Ravens had become a problem again, and that's just kind of what they do every once in a while. I think flyers are a hard thing to balance and try to get them to do what you want them to do for the game. And I think that the flyers in general are just like, they're in a point now where I think GW is having a hard time trying to find ways to make them work. The other thing that changed with the Ironstorm is with the fact that they've now, with the new Pariah Nexus pack that's coming out now, you can't advance and do an action, which was a lot of the benefit of having that Ironstorm ability there. So having them there, it's like, who knows? I don't think it's going to be game changing there. I do think that it, like with the changes that we have otherwise, maybe there's some more options that you want to try Dark Angel-y, but you never know. See how that goes. They've also changed the points for the Land Raider Redeemer from 260 to 285, extra 25 points. It seems fair. The Overwatch with those flame cannons was huge and made a big difference. So an extra 25 points for them feels like it's okay. It's an okay price to pay. I'm not too worried about that. I think that's a decent up. I feel like that change feels good. I mean, 25 points is 25 points, but you're only usually taking one, so it's an extra 25 points is not really bad. I feel like that's an okay points increase, and probably a due one. And on the other hand, the Land Raider Crusader with the bolters has dropped 10 points from 230 to 220. So if you're not looking for Overwatch from the flame cannons, now I have another option there. So that's a pretty decent swing there. So it leaves them at a 65 point difference between the two. So if you're just looking for a tin can to hold your guys to get up there, you can just go with the Crusader as opposed to the Redeemer, and just kind of run them that way. Or you can still just pay the extra points for having the flame cannons doing fun flaming cannon things and call it a day. They've also changed the points of the Repulsor from 110 to 180, so a 10-point difference down on the Repulsor. The Impulsor did not change its points, but both of them had their capacity, their transport capacity changed. So the Repulsor was upped to 14 capacity, and the Impulsor was upped to 7. And essentially what this allows you to do is have your unit with 2 characters attached to it, as opposed to the one that left you without enough space to kind of put some of your units in there that you wanted to. Now you have the space to do it, which I think is a decent change, a good change. And like I said, the Repulsor, going down some points. I think that's just because you didn't see it much. And I think the transport change is going to make a bigger difference on whether you'll see them out on the board or not. And a big change that I'm super excited about was that they've changed the rules to Ruins now, where where usually it was like the infantry and swarm could go through the walls, and it left you with the Lionel Johnson just banging on the door and not able to get through. They've changed it now so that Imperial Primarchs and Belisarius Call can actually walk through walls as well in Ruins. So you've got all the usual stuff that can go through walls, and Imperial Primarchs and Belisarius Call. So, something like Magnus is still too big to kind of go through the wall, but he's got fly, he should be fine. But something smaller like the Lion or, or Gilliman can actually now go through the wall. So that change feels pretty good for the Dark Angels. It feels like, I still don't know if the Lion's going to get on the table, but I feel like that's the kind of push in the direction that I kind of need to see it happening. We're going to have a little bit more versatility with him, move him up, hide him from getting shot off the board so soon, and actually get him to get off his charges when he becomes a beast in combat. But I don't know if that change is going to be enough for me to put the Lion into my list for competitive games. Obviously, I'm talking about, but it does feel like it's the kind of change that I feel like it was due. I feel like the Lion shouldn't have been left on the other side of the wall while his Terminators go, his Deathwing Knights go flying through the wall, and he's just like left on the other side, like, let me out. But that feels like a very feels good change to it, and it doesn't feel like the kind of change that's going to like upset too many people. I don't think too many people are like, no, make him walk around, other than if they're feeling kind of petty, because it didn't feel like that was like a necessary thing to happen to find balance in this game. But those are my thoughts. I think overall the changes have been very good. I feel like the Dark Angels got some love. The points changed to the Deathwing Knights, making them up even after they benefited them there. Does feel a little bit feels bad. It feels like it was a little unnecessary, but otherwise I think it's pretty good, and I'm pretty happy with it. I do think that there's some room to play with now with the Inner Circle Companion. And that's another thing, is that they did change the Inner Circle Companions I forgot to mention this. They did change the Inner Circle companions that they have AP -2 on their close combat weapons now, and they increased it to 5 attacks on the sweep, but they didn't have any change in the points. So, I mean, they got a boon without having to get a points change, which is good. I still don't know if they're going to be the ones to take. They're awesome looking models, so I'll probably end up building them and painting them and seeing what they can do for me on the table there. They might be fun to just like run around with someone to just start slashing some stuff up, because they do get a pretty good bonus if they're being led by someone. So we'll see what happens with them. Like I said, I think that it's that change might not be enough to make them my go-to, just because of the lack of invul save. But if you can put them with someone who gives them an invul save, like Azrael, maybe. Who knows? I'll see. You know, I don't know. It's at least enough of a change that I might consider kind of like playing with them and see what happens. Because they did increase their points, so they're still going to be cheaper than Blade Guard, and just see what happens. But yeah, those are my thoughts with what's going on there. I think that the Inner Circle Task Force is probably going to be my go-to, and I think I'm going to give it a shot. I think there's some more space there to work with it. I got frustrated to the point that I kind of gave up on it for a while there. But these changes feel like I maybe give myself another chance to look at it, give it another chance to kind of work with it and feel what's going on with that. The changes to Deathwing Knights feel like they're maybe more effective now. Maybe they can do what they're supposed to do. The changes to the secondary missions are going to take a bit to get used to. Still, if I want to go with the set mission, like the set secondaries, like I was trying originally with the task force, but I might just go tactical for a while just to see how it works with them. Especially since it feels like a lot of the really hard ones and a lot of the ones that are just like impossible to do in the new Pariah Nexus pack have the ability, if you can't do it, you just discard it and draw a new card, which is fun. That feels like a really good, feel-good change to the rules there. So I think it's worth a try. I think it's worth exploring. I want to see Deathwing Knights doing Deathwing Knights things again, because I think that's fun. I always like seeing Deathwing Knights on the table. They're some of my favorite models. Might give me the opportunity to build up another squad of the ones from the new kit, which would be fun to do. And I think that there's some wiggle room there now with these changes, because it feels like they did enough that I can try and I won't feel as frustrated, because that was always my thing, was that I was feeling super frustrated with how the game was, how my games were playing by me on the table there with the rules the way they were, and that's not fun. I don't want to be frustrated. I'm here to have fun with this hobby. That's what I'm here to do. And it's not because I wasn't winning. It was because I can lose just as well with any other army, trust me. But it did mean that I was feeling like I wasn't having fun. I wasn't able to do kind of what I thought it should be doing. So, but let me know down below what you think about these changes. Are you having some ideas? Have you had some success with some other Dark Angels lists that you've been excited about? Again, Ravenwing, I'm just really bad with bikes. I know that the Ravenwing have been decent, but again, I'm just really bad at bikes. And I think that now, especially with the change to that you can't advance and do secondaries, having bikes is probably going to be a very good thing to have on there, being able to move them fast and get you to places that you need to do those secondaries. So it might be worth popping in a squad of Outriders just to be able to be my, you know, kind of expensive action monkeys there, but you know, see what happens. But let me know down below what you think, and let me know if you think I'm way off target, or if you think that I'm kind of on the right track. If you have any advice of what you think I should be doing differently or going forward with this, I would love to hear it. Also, remember, I'm part of the Army Painter Factory team, and part of the benefit to that, to you guys, is that they have given me a code for Factory Geek 5, which will give you 5% off of your purchases from the Army Painter, any of the purchases that you want to make. So, you know, go get yourself some new paints to paint up our new Deathwing Knight Overlords and get them out on the table there. But yes, so I hope you guys have all enjoyed this. I certainly have. I have been Phil, the Glacial Geek, as always. And until next time, stay safe and have fun.